Hey everybody. Hopefully folks can hear me. Keep my fingers crossed since I can't see Zoom coming up. Here we go. You can hear me? Wonderful. Excellent. Well, I'll give everyone just a minute or two to join. Got a few folks coming in now. It's always good. That's always the fear when you're like, can everyone hear me if I'm just doing this by myself? I can see the chat and the participants. This is calming me. This is what I wanted. Excellent. So yes, as I said, hopefully you've just been enjoying some other sessions and you're coming in now. I can see folks joining, and as the participants number is going up, I'll just give folks another few seconds because I've got a bunch to pack in today. So I will make sure that everyone has their time to join. But hopefully everyone's had a productive day. Any favorite sessions people have joined so far? Do share them in the chat so that we can all go and watch the best ones on record. Not that they weren't all great, but it's always good to get some choice view whilst folks join. And I reckon since the number has stopped ticking up, I reckon we can start. Cool. So thanks everyone for joining my session today on AI-powered people operations. So my name is Matt Bradburn. I am the founder of PeopleXAI.co. I run a small consultancy helping companies put in not just kind of people projects, but also workflows and strategies and approaches to using AI much more effectively in a very practical way. That is my big thing. Less theory, more practical. I'm a writer, and you can find my newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter on practical approaches with a lot of free goodies at peoplexrobots.com. And I run a course on this as well at Maven and help companies and individuals get better at it, right? Because fundamentally, the world of work is changing, but you hear enough about that whole future of work situation on LinkedIn, I'm sure. So that is not why I am here today. Today, I want to guide you through a really prime example of how you can actually use this in practice with some basics, some tips and tricks, etc. So I'm going to set the scene. Imagine turning raw engagement and commercial data, not just your engagement data, but your commercial data as well, into a really interesting people operations roadmap for you and your executive team in under 30 minutes without the endless meetings or the manual analysis. Well, today I'm going to show you how you can use generative AI, something that most of us have available to make this very possible, using, I say, real data, but fundamentally real data from a 200-person SaaS business. It's amazing in my line of work how much dummy data I've built out at this point. But the key thing is you're going to leave with a process that you can replicate tomorrow. So that's going to be the bulk of the session today when we go through this practical aspect. But before we get into that, and also how to then automate it, I want to go through some basics. So I've been working with a lot of companies over the last kind of 6, 8 months, very much in a focused way on how to help them develop and grow their people operations with using AI in a very practical way, but I've been using it myself for a much longer period of time. And I want to share some basics and some tips and tricks that keep coming up time and again, where people get a little bit of a like, oh, that's a good, useful thought. I hadn't come across that one, or this is a useful tip, etc. So to start with some basics. Now, we all know, and I'm kind of cutting out, as I said, all the theory, top layer, etc. Right? Some of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing with teams right now, and therefore some of the basics to counter it, I'm just going to dive straight in. Build confidence through doing. There is no better way to pick this up than actually practicing it. And it's one of the things I'm finding I'm seeing folks finding the hardest is not knowing like where to start. Like where do I start? Like which of these work streams or what can I use, etc. But truly, just getting acquainted and using it in a really practical way, which is where I'm kind of seeing most people kind of getting to right now, and starting to get better and moving beyond practicing is great. But if you are not sure, then practice, practice, practice. Use it in your personal life, use it in your work life, use it any which way you can. Secondly, use insights from other functions and approaches. I would say there's a couple of people that I learn from most on YouTube videos or Twitter threads, etc. One's a marketer. He's like an incredible SEO guy. Fine, wonderful. But his approaches and applications of AI are still very applicable. And the other one is a solo engineer who talks about what he's building on Twitter. Honestly, none of them got anything to do with people ops, but they've inspired me wholly to find new and interesting ways to go and apply this in the people ops realm. Thirdly, audit what you have and what you don't. So take the time to think about the things that you repeat on a regular basis. It's absolutely critical. Like, think about these things constantly. Like, where am I trying to do this 50 times, 100 times, 200 times? And then you start to think about how much time can be saved. Fourthly, ask your users. So what are the people processes which they're engaged in which annoy them, right? So if I am booking holiday, if I am asking for, I don't know, some information about RevOps when I'm onboarding, whatever it is, build for them. And there's a great checklist here combining my thoughts around AI with people as a product, which I actually spoke at Panda Horizons with Jesse about last year. We spoke together on that, but you can find my checklist for combining those two fields quite nicely for free there. So I'll send the slides around afterwards. And finally, always be curious. You'll be amazed at what can be automated, sped up, where you can improve not just the speed, but also the quality, and also lowering costs as well. And the reason I put these basics in, these are often pieces which come up, right? And I think I'm going to add one final one, which I haven't actually put in here. I'm a big believer in buying products, sure, at the right place at the right time, but I'm a much bigger believer in finding your own way to go and build these, particularly when the products that have been in the market for a while aren't quite up to scratch yet, and those that are AI native also aren't quite up to scratch yet. So in the interim, no point spending a lot of money and locking yourself into a long contract or trying to roll out a whole new system. Instead, just use what's available to you. Use generative AI effectively, use workflow creators like Zapier, Make.com effectively, use website builders or small, microsite builders like Lovable, Cursor, etc. Much more effective. Then, onto that, a few tips and tricks. So, again, often on the theme that I get around, I don't know where to start. Choosing your model is absolutely critical. So by that, I mean whether you're using Grok, whether you are using Claude, whether you're using ChatGPT, but also within that, which of the models are you using within there? Are you trying to create a research report using, I don't know, GPT 4.5 or 3.7, and then test and compare them, because frankly some of them are supposed to be amazing at some things and end up getting much worse results than others. I've written a guide on that. That's free as well. I try to cram as much free stuff in here. I'm like, just give people all the useful stuff. So there's a guide there on all the different areas of people ops, all the different models, what they're great at. Have at it. Hopefully very effective. And some additional little tips and tricks, which I know folks have always found useful, particularly on the course I run. ChatGPT, always use the memory function, which they've now recently added. I found that amazing, particularly for areas like tone of voice, which is a common one for people ops, right? You want to maintain that tone of voice across your internal comms. Always ask it to create the best prompt when building complex prompts. Again, I'm not going to get into it today, but one of the biggest problems I see when folks start using this is that they're prompting terribly, not through any fault of their own. They just haven't taken the time to learn and read the deep dive guides. You can find my cut down version of OpenAI's newest very deep dive guide there. And actually, the easiest way to do it is just say, hey, ChatGPT, I would like to combine all this company information together. Can you write me a prompt to do it in the most effective way possible? So there you go. Make.com and Zapier, or any other automation tools. NA10 is also obviously becoming very popular as well. Yes, Trina, I see this. Will these guides be shared? Yeah, sure. We'll find a way to share them. I'm sure we can do that. Dive deeper into the tools and learn to understand what you could be building by using ChatGPT at the same time. So if we think about automations, right? People have used Zapier for years, got a nice little Zap, etc., which connects, I don't know, Google Drive to email and then sends out a thing when you ask it to. Lovely. Well, a lot of the work these days is very similar. Yes, you can add some nice, flashy bits to it. You can connect them to OpenAI. You can make them fully agentic. You can actually just build full custom agents or swarms of agents to go and do these things completely in the background with their own capabilities, which is wonderful. But take the time, particularly with make.com, which I tend to find more powerful and recommend over Zapier at this point, but this changes constantly. One of the ever lasting challenges is to understand what you could build and how you could do it. Lovable cursor supervase. Finally, my little microsite building thing that I love doing. Database first, then design. And again, always have ChatGPT build your PRD before you run your first prompt. So instead of going to Lovable and saying, I'd like a nice, pretty internal website that does this, go to ChatGPT, ask it to put together your PRD, then send it over to Lovable, Cursor, etc. And finally, security first, people. Lots of people on Lovable built things which weren't very secure and caused all sorts of problems. So, right. Some very, very low-level practical tips and tricks for you there. Hopefully, some of those have been useful, but I want to give you a prime example of actually how we can put this into action. So, two things you need to know about the current state of play, because a lot of people are trying to sell you agents when they don't actually mean that they're agents. So we have two things. We have what I'm going to term kind of agentic workflows, or just workflows, and then we have agents. It's two very separate things. Now, I might be teaching people here to suck eggs. You might already be hiring agents into your own team. But fundamentally, most people I know are still at the workflow stage, as am I most of the time. It just works really well. And a workflow is a fixed, predefined sequence of LLM, so ChatGPT, Grok, etc., calls with a very clearly defined known number of steps, right? So I say, I would like you to go and do this thing, analyze this, come back with the results, put the results in this spreadsheet, turn it into a report. Then once the report is ready, I would go and tell ChatGPT to go and build me graphs based off the report using their new image API. And ta-da, I get a lovely report with a bunch of graphs and all of the information at the end. So a workflow or an agentic workflow is essentially where you know what's going to come out of it, right? And this is what we're going to focus on today. Whereas when we go to agents, an agent is an autonomous system where the LLM decides its own actions and it continues until resolution. So there's a lot more space for novelty there and a lot more space for things to go wrong. And agents have the autonomy to determine their path whilst workflows follow those predetermined steps. So think of agents as, right, here's where I want to get to as my end goal. You go and work out how to get there. Whereas a workflow, you've got to tell it all the steps that it's going to go through along the way. But most people, as I said, are in workflow mode, and that is just fine because that's where we're going to cover today. So step one, what you need, engagement data Spreadsheet format, as you can see, the spreadsheet at the back. Company performance data, also spreadsheet format. An LLM, so Grok, OpenAI, Claude, doesn't matter. I mean, OpenAI's been the best, but actually Grok was really good in the later stages, and I'll come to that in a minute. And then an output format, so Notion. Now, we're basically working with two data sets here. So engagement data from my 200-person SaaS team. So survey scores on morale, workload, collaboration, etc. And some commercial data. So revenue, churn, sales pipeline. And normally actually synthesizing these two pieces of data together and getting a useful output would take, yeah, quite a long time, hours. So instead, what I wanted to do was show you how to do it in minutes. So back to prompting. Now, as I said, Grok is actually quite good at this, hence the screenshot here. You can see on the left that I've used the anatomy of an O1 prompt. Now, this, if you want to take a screenshot of it, be my guest. There are many copies of this image floating around on the internet, but I found it so gloriously useful. Anytime I want an amazing prompt, I tell ChatGPT to make an amazing prompt in this format, and it goes and does it for me. It's very kind like that, right? And I basically said, I want you to, the outcome of me telling it I want a prompt in that way was I want you to assess the results of an employee engagement survey and create a report for the CEO and CFO in order for them to understand the cultural challenges within the business and what areas to focus on short, medium, and long term to improve our commercial outcomes through our people. I ran a company pulse survey, results attached in the tabs of the attached spreadsheet. I want you to return it in a format which can easily be posted in Notion. This report should contain high-level insights and introduction with clear quantitative markers for the best and worst performing areas. Deep dive should look to analyze and group responses by type in a way that gives useful insights, explaining likely causes. I want it to be broken down in the best way possible. Then it should have a section on suggested quick wins, focusing on what to solve first, small steps and improvements, longer term solutions, conclusion, etc. Yada, yada, right? So as you can see, my prompts are very detailed for the main purpose that what I find is the better information you put in, the better information you get out, right? And I've said the report should be detailed, accurate, and written as if it was coming from a very commercial chief people officer for a YC-backed data business with offices in SF and many of the team remote in India. I want to ensure this is a top quality piece of work from a standard expected from a global CHRO and a scaling business. So yes, the detail of your prompts absolutely matters, as does the quality of the data that you're putting into it. But the joy of LLMs is they're really good at extracting insights out of varied data. So we get this here, right? We get a nice output. It's a pretty good start. So at FinEdge, yes, my fake company, our people are our competitive edge in a fast-evolving AI landscape. This pulse survey conducted with 31 respondents provides a critical snapshot of cultural health, yada, yada. So quant highlights best performing areas, channels to propose ideas, value contributions, etc. Worst performing areas, satisfaction with compensation, satisfaction with benefits, right? So this is very much just the engagement survey. This is just the pure outcomes of this one, right? And what I actually want to do is to get to a point where I can turn this combination with our commercial data as per my first prompt into the full outcome. So this is where, I go into even more detail with my prompt, as you can see on the left. Provided you with employee engagement survey and now dummy commercial data for FinEdge AI, a company with 3 million ARR as of this date. The commercial data is in a table format, includes metrics like ARR, MRR, customer count, CAC, LTV, churn, team size, runway, etc. Now I want to create the roadmap report, yada, yada, right? It goes in. And of course, I have included my roadmap for you there. You can find that. That is absolutely fine. And it was actually amazing to see. I think the thing that blew my mind was the quality of these integrated insights, right? So here's how engagement themes intersect with commercial metrics, with root causes and business impact. So if we take transparency and execution, the engagement data is telling us that the transparency score 6.5, employees cite lack of internal communication, layoff uncertainty as risks, with calls for financial transparency in town halls. Sure, we've all heard that one before. The commercial data shows product delivery time, 4 months versus competitor standard of 3 months and 10% churn, which tied to slow execution. Pipeline conversion at 20%, lags due to post-demo bottlenecks. So root causes, leadership's focus on speed over communication, siloed SF India teams, and reactive updates post-layoffs have eroded trust and alignment, which has slowed engineering and sales handoffs and customer delivery. Business impact, delayed deployments cost 400K in lost ARR, 2 churn clients, x 200K ACV, low transparency risks 15% turnover, 7 exits in 2024, each costing 50K to replace, right? So we are talking the right language here. We are talking the language of the CFO, we're talking the language of the CEO, but we're also bringing the storytelling to the table, right? We're talking about people in a human way, and we're trying to solve and make the business a more effective commercial organization through its people. And if there is any role that HR, people ops, whatever we want to call it these days, should be playing in 2025 and beyond, it is that, right? It is how do we create effective commercial outcomes? Fundamentally, capitalism is all about creating return for our shareholders. So it's kind of our job. And yeah, what we need to do is create those returns through our people. And therefore, our people have to be able to, have transparency in order to be effective. They need opportunities for career growth. They have to have, we want to retain our high density areas of talent. We do need to think about our compensation, benefits, and productivity. So no reason we can't go to that table, go to the boardroom, and talk about exactly what steps we want to take, but do so in a very human way. Cool. There's my rant over for a second there. And step 4, as you can say, this is very simple. It's a 5-step process. I only had a short period of time, so I try to whip through this as quickly as possible. So now I want to refine this, right? Because yes, that's great, but actually I want it in a format that I want it in. I want it looking pretty. I want it to be more effective and more helpful. So I might ask something like this, saying, this is great, but I want to refine this. The report quality and tone is excellent. However, I need you to go further in the deep dive for integrated insights. I want it to be more comprehensive and to have more areas of focus, 5 to 10, with more information under the headings as well. I also want you to use actions which the team will find truly impactful. For example, benefits benchmarking on a global basis and creating clear levels and progression is great. Now make them tangible. So what we're doing here is furthering, going beyond these insights and roadmaps, because they're really good at creating a set of insights, pulling together disparate data sets, pulling together quantitative and qualitative data, pulling it all back into one place and giving you a great report. But what do we do with it, right? And actually, if you go into the full report, which I've shared for free there, I'll try and share it in the chat, but I'm like, it's too many screens. I can't do it right now. If you go into the full report, you'll see what it also sets out is the responsibility for solving these challenges doesn't just fall on the people team. I made it pretty clear to it in my very long rambling second prompt that I didn't go all the way through, but it also falls on leadership and it also falls on managers. But I wanted to give them a way where they had clearly identifiable actions and metrics off the back of it as well, with associated timelines to be much more effective. So yeah, this is how in what turns out to be about a half-hour session, which I've been allowed, you are able to go from 2 spreadsheets with unstructured data to getting a singular engagement report, to combining it with the commercial data, to getting a full report, to you can then, what I would what I missed out here is I literally then gave it another prompt and said, please create this in a perfect format for Notion so that it is beautifully, beautifully and visually engaging. And then on top of this, I've now started putting in all of my graphs into Notion in my reports as well. It's great. It's amazing what you can do with it. I don't even have to like tell it what graphs I want. I'm just like, think about the graphs left. Think about the graphs and what you can go for there, right? So your opportunity to use generative AI to get really useful, insightful information and actions, which can help you build a roadmap. I mean, it's incredibly helpful. Now, I saw a question in here. I'm new to using AI and hesitant to put company confidential data like ARR or employee data in a system like ChatGPT. Well, step number one, absolutely don't be doing that. Well, certainly not directly from Google and directly with your company name. I would recommend, firstly, if you've got, let's say you've got anonymized engagement data, firstly, go and find any names, personal, company identifiers, etc. Make sure you scrub those out first. Very easy to do. Took me about 5 minutes because this is how I did this one. And then for, let's say, your churn and things like that, don't title the spreadsheet, name of my company, commercial data. Instead, you keep it vague, keep it broad, download them to your computer, then use them solely from your local network up to ChatGPT. Make sure that they are, as I said, removed all the personal identifiable information, which allows you to go even further as well. So I have on my course taken this a step further. I combined compensation data as well as performance data to assess talent density, to assess skills gaps, to assess burn rates, all of these things which can be incredibly helpful over a longer period of time to the CFO, to myself as a people leader running a people operation, right? And doing that can, again, be done as long as you're very, very careful and sensible about the data you're collecting, what you're doing with it, where you're keeping it, where you're not keeping it, more to the point, where you're anonymizing it, etc. That is all very important. And yes, you can also use make.com to go and scrub that. Now, step 5 here, your last one. Action it and then automate it. So I have taken all of these processes, inclusive the one with the compensation reporting where I got it to bring in the new comp pay ratios, etc. Look at these across the teams, check out who's highest, lowest for talent density based on past performance scores versus newer performance scores. What's the rate and velocity of growth over time? What's the rate of compensation increasing? Does that line up with our velocity of growth? How does that line up to all of our other areas as well? And then I automated the whole thing in make.com. So all of this process, end to end, well, now it just happens on one click. I don't even have to prompt anymore. It's amazing. So you can set it up in there that it literally goes Google Sheet to OpenAI, ask it the question, goes back to Google Sheet, ask Google Sheets again, goes through an iterator, routes some information to a different spreadsheet in a different place, then goes through it's the text aggregator, and then emails it to the CFO, for example. And there's a bunch of these processes, which I can highly recommend. If I had more time, I would go into how to do workflows. If you want to come and find out, you can via peoplexi.co. But yes, actioning and automating are the key critical next steps, right? So this is how you get into it in a practical way. And workflows is how you actually save that time and again, to get your life back. Because every poor people person I know right now is having to do more with less, having AI shoved down their throat, not knowing where to start. And hopefully that 30 minutes today has been useful. Thank you very much, everyone. That brings me to the end of the webinar with about 30 seconds left. So yeah, thanks everyone.